Gardening leave. Can somebody please tell me what the hell gardening leave is? So Marti Cifuentes has been placed on gardening leave. Now it looks like he is well on his way from Queen's Park Rangers. The assistant coaches, Kevin Betsy and then Xavi Calm, will take charge of the game in the final game of the season against Sunderland. Now, we'll discuss that one in a minute, but gardening leave from Marti Cifuentes. Also, by the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe on the channel. It'd be very greatly appreciated. If you're a fan of Championship content, subscribe to this channel. This is the place to be for Championship content. Now, me not being the sharpest tool in the drawer, gardening leave is actually a situation where the employer requires the employee to stay away from work. So the board have asked Marti Cifuentes not to take charge of this game against Sunderland, and it says even though they're still getting paid and they're still employed by the club. So right now, of course, Marti's still employed by the club, but he will not be taking charge of the game because the QPR higher-ups don't want him in charge. Now, of course, as I say, Xavi Calm is the one that's actually taking charge of this game now. And Xavi Calm is thought of very highly by Marti Cifuentes. He was with him at Hammarby, and that was a team that Marti was at before QPR. And now, of course, he's come over to QPR with Marti. Now, you'd think with him being very trusted with Marti Cifuentes and being part of the QPR backroom staff brought in by Marti Cifuentes, you would think that he would also be on gardening leave as well as I say, the kind of all-comers one, you'd think. But I don't know if Xavi Calm's going against Marti in terms of, you know, he wants to stay at QPR and he doesn't agree with what's going on. I'm not sure if that's the case, or, I mean, if it's Marti Cifuentes you're looking at it from his perspective, you see your assistant manager taking charge of the game and you not, it doesn't really look great for those two together. And this isn't actually the first time with QPR. You look at Michael Beale in the recent appointments. If we have a manager that generally does quite well, they seem to obviously then think they can move on to a bigger and better opportunity, which Michael Beale, of course, he said that his loyalties lie with QPR. He said that after rejecting the Wolves job and rejecting Wolves when they approached him. He said his loyalties lie with QPR. He's really happy here. And then within a month decided to jump ship as things got a little bit worse. We started to get a few losses. And then, of course, he did then move on to Rangers. Then you look at the situation with Marti Cifuentes. Of course, he fell out with the CEO. It came out last week. The reports we didn't know were true or not. The more this kind of takes place, the more you realise this is obviously something that the board and Marti have had discussions, and they obviously haven't really come to any kind of agreement, hence why Marti now wants to move on. Now, as far as the situation goes between Michael Beale and Marti Cifuentes, a lot of people are then making, of course, comparisons, and they're going to be leaving the club in a similar way. Now, Michael Beale didn't do anywhere near as much for QPR as what Marti Cifuentes has done. There's no doubt in my mind we would have been a League One club if Marti Cifuentes didn't take over at QPR. So we can definitely be grateful for the efforts that he made last season. This season, it hasn't worked out in the slightest in compared to last season. Last season, we were actually a very decent side. We were very hard to beat. This season, I mean, you look at the last game against Burnley, we were absolutely pathetic. And there's been multiple decisions as well, which Marti Cifuentes has made throughout the season in terms of team selections. You look at the signings that have been brought in. Things haven't exactly been perfect at QPR, although it hasn't been absolutely dreadful when you look at the fact, you know, we're not in the relegation zone, we're not in a relegation battle. We know we were quite clear of it throughout most of the season. Those times we were slightly looking over our shoulder, but for the most part, we were pretty safe from relegation all season. So you look at it from that perspective with the injuries, you can definitely say Marti Cifuentes didn't do a bad job at QPR this season. But then you also say, as I said, with the team selections and the money that we spent in the transfer window, we definitely haven't improved from what we were last season under Marti Cifuentes. I'd definitely say we've gone backwards. The board and Marti's, the kind of ambitions, they obviously very much differ in terms of what Marti wants and what the board wants and what the board can do and what Marti expects from the board. Obviously, there's a clear disconnect in terms of the way that they're both feeling towards that situation. Now, there's one thing that Marti Cifuentes cannot deny in the slightest, and that's the fact that he was backed in the summer transfer window. I'll put up the two screenshots as well of the previous summer transfer windows, where the last two seasons we didn't even spend a penny. Under Gareth Ainsworth, we didn't spend a penny, and the season before that, under Michael Beale, we in fact didn't spend a penny. Now, Marti Cifuentes, you look at the transfers that were made this window, you look at Nicholas Madsen, you spent £4 million, or getting close to £4 million, €4 million on Nicholas Madsen. It's been an absolute disaster sign. He's been alright in the last couple of weeks of the season, but for me as a QPR fan, I can't watch this guy. I think he's so lazy. He doesn't run in the slightest. He's 6'4", he can't win a header. You've got your 6'4", you know, what's meant to be an aerial presence, you'd think, with his height. He takes corners. He doesn't want to even put his head on the line and, but, you know, even fight for the ball. You've got to put him on set pieces. Now, set pieces aren't bad, but to have a guy who's 6'4" taking your set pieces is a little bit concerning, in my opinion. It's just his overall game. I don't know what he's doing. Like, I don't really know, and I don't understand him. I don't know what, as I say, I don't know what his game is. Watching him is painful. Then you look at the second most expensive signing. You've got Jan Seller. Now, he was great for one match where he scored 2 goals against Cardiff, but before that, he was getting absolutely pelted by fans. Again, it's another player that like, you look at the effort and you compare him to a player like Alfie Lloyd, who's been playing up front at times for QPR this season. The tenacity of Alfie Lloyd compared to the tenacity of Zancella is absolute night and day. You're talking about two completely different players. And as a fan, what you want as the minimum is 110%. You want your players to be giving absolutely everything. Then you're looking at €6 million in two players that are most expensive signings. They have, for me, their effort is not being 100%, and it doesn't look like it on the pitch. And realistically, for a club like us at QPR, spending that kind of money is absolutely huge, and it's something that can be detrimental to us going forward in the future. Now, next transfer window, I don't think we'll be spending any money. I don't see us spending much money in the slightest anyway, just due to the fact that I don't think we're going to be selling any players. And in terms of, the money to spend, we've spent most of it in this summer. So Marti's going to be upset that maybe he feels like he's not going to get back as much in this summer. But then you look at it, there's no argument. He started this project. He's been the guy that's brought these players in, or whoever it was, whoever was in charge of bringing in these transfers. It hasn't worked out. If that wasn't Marti, then fair enough. But if it was Marti, then a lot of this is on him, these signings. Because you look at the two most expensive signings, €6 million, most of the money was spent, is on two players that right now you'd say are complete flops at QPR. Jonathan Varand's been decent, and then the other ones are kind of just free transfers and loads. But the transfers haven't worked out. And you look at the players we've got in the current squad. This was our last starting 11. Now, who's actually going to get sold in, say, the next summer, this next transfer window, that's actually going to be worth any money at all? Like, Jimmy Dunn's our best player. He's going to be off on a free transfer, no doubt, in the summer. And the other players that you look, Ryan Colley, he's got potential. Has he done enough? He scored 4 goals this season. Has he done enough to warrant a move that's going to be any substantial amount of fee, and some club will want to pay it? I'm not so sure right now. Again, Jonathan Varand's done very well at times as well. I think he's been really good in the second half of the season. And over the most part of the season, he just started very poorly. He's another player that potentially down the line could be worth a little bit of money, but right now I'd say no. Karamoko Dembele, there's potential there. You've got players that got potential, Liam Morrison as well, but these players simply haven't played enough games and got enough minutes and got enough credit in the bank to warrant themselves a big move in terms of a big money move that can really benefit our club in terms of finances. So I don't see it happening. I don't see it coming in the summer, which only means one thing in terms of the next transfer window. And then you look at the current contract situation with players that we have got in our team, and it's not looking good with the loan players going back. Hopefully we can sign maybe a Koki Sato on a permanent, but a lot of the loans are obviously going back to their parent clubs. And as well as that, you've got players that are out of contract. You got Lucas Anderson, who's not great, but he's a squad player. Morgan Fox, another squad player. Steve Cook, obviously, he's had a lot of injuries this season. Kenneth Powell, another first-team player for the most part. Jimmy Dunn, of course, is going, which is our best player. And then you've got all the loans going back as well. We've got an option to extend Michael Frey, apparently, and an option to extend Jack Cole, which I probably would say right now, we probably just, even though Jack Colback's old, I'd say just 1 more year is probably fair enough. We can just get another year out of those two. But you look at the players that are leaving, there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done with the squad, and you'd say it's going to be mostly next season full of loans and a few free transfers, of course, as well. And I really don't see us spending much money in the slightest. You look at the overall record of Marti Cifuentes, you can't deny that he's done a good job at QPR. Of course, the job that he did in the Championship last season was as close to a 10 out of 10 as you can get. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 at the end of the day, keeping us up. If he kept us up by 1 point on the final day, that would have been a 10 out of 10 season for Marti Cifuentes. It was all about keeping us up, which he did, and he did it very, very impressively and well when you look at the results that we got towards the back end of the season and just throughout most of the tenure under Marti Cifuentes that season. This season has been a completely different story. We've strengthened the squad, you would think, in terms of the money that we've spent, and you would have expected us to really push on this season. People were saying, maybe push towards the playoffs, but I was always happy with mid-tables for this season. But going forward now, with Marti Cifuentes leaving, a lot of the players that we've brought in, it doesn't really look good for QPR going forward, and it does look quite worrying in terms of what's going to happen next season. We're definitely looking towards the relegation zone instead of we're looking towards the playoffs, which we were maybe initially thinking could be the case at some points of the season. We're thinking maybe next season we can really make a good push at the playoffs. That's gone completely out of the window, and God knows what's going to happen for QPR with the next manager. Gary O'Neil, someone that a lot of fans want, but we'll wait and see with the news that comes out. I'll definitely have another video on the rumours and the managers that could be set to come in if Marti Cifuentes does go. And at the moment, there's no way back for Marti after this. It's all done in my opinion. Even if he doesn't go to West Brom, it's absolutely done for me. Anyway, that will about do for the video. If you're a QPR fan, subscribe to the page. There's going to be a lot of videos on QPR. If you're a Championship fan in general, hit subscribe again because there's going to be a lot of Championship content. If you watch this point, you may as well hit subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.